What's up, guys? Chris and Beth here. And ever since we did our business building startup video, we've had a lot of requests on how to do the spreadsheets that we use for our woodworking business. And so this video is going to take care of that for you. We wanted to share it with you so you can track your finances, you can track product, or anything else that you really want to be able to put on it.
Yeah, so just a reminder, I'm not a CPA and I'm not a lawyer, so definitely talk to those experts. But today we're going to talk about building that Excel spreadsheet. I'm going to try to keep this at the beginner to intermediate Excel level, but Chris is here to keep me honest, to make sure that someone who doesn't live in Excel every day like I do can do these steps and ask questions on your behalf. There are more advanced things that you can do with the Excel spreadsheet, but we're not going to get into those today. We're going to focus on making this user-friendly as a way to get your business tracking and know where your money's going.
So let's get going.
Okay, so to get us started, I'm just going to open up a new blank workbook. And so I'm in Excel. We're going to open that blank workbook. And first things first, let's hit a little plus sign down here at the bottom to give ourselves two tabs. The first tab, I'm going to right click and rename to, let's just say June General Ledger. And you'll want to copy this in the future to make sure that you have one for every month. And then we're going to rename our second tab, June Monthly Summary. Whoops, if I can type. There we go. Okay, so every month I do two different tabs. I have one where we list all of the details, and I have one where we sum up all of those details into categories for tracking purposes. So the general ledger side is very, very simple. I'm going to use 4 rows. And so starting up here in cell A1, I'm going to have a row for the date. And then in column B, I'm going to do I'm topping at an angle here, /from. Column C, I'm going to do a description. I said 4. We actually need 6. Sorry.
Let's do 6. 8, 12, 15, whatever.
So we're going to do an expenses column, an income column, and a category. And I'm going to explain all of these in just a minute. So I'm going to space these out a little bit so that when you're using your Excel spreadsheet, you have plenty of room to type. Okay, and then let's just grab row 1 and go up here and make it bold and give it an underline so that we know clearly what our category or what our column headings are. Now in column D, I'm going to highlight that whole column and I'm going to hit this little $sign to make sure that anytime we put in a dollar or a number amount here, it automatically converts that to dollars, see? So we want that to have a $sign. And then same thing with column E. We're going to give it a $sign. Okay.
So when you for people that don't like me, as we talked about in the one video, so when you give it a $sign, that automatically
formats it to that dollar amount.
Okay.
So if I put in, 125.46, whoops, I'm in the column again. I've got it. I'm typing at an angle, people. I'm sorry. Let's just say I put in a dollar amount here. It's automatically going to format into dollars.
Right.
So you're not dealing with having your decimals cut off. It's going to always format it in that dollar.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then I'm going to scroll down a little bit to maybe row 50. And I'm going to go all the way across row 50. And I just highlighted those. And I'm going to come up here and give it a bottom border. And this is just going to show where we're going to end our tracking. Now, if you are doing a lot of expenses, you may need more than 50 rows. If you're pretty startup, 50 rows is going to be enough, but we can always add more later. And then down here underneath D and E, which is where we have our expenses and our income, we want to go over here and hit the Sigma button. And the Sigma is the fancy looking E. And what that's going to do is it's going to total up everything in this column. So I'm just going to hit the Sigma, it's going to put a formula in there, and I'm just going to hit the D at the top, and it's going to say sum up everything in D. So now if we test that, let's just say I put a $1 here and a $2 here. Down here we should have, oh, we didn't get $3. Hang on. Let's say D to D50. There we go. Now we have $3. Okay, so let me show you how to do it the right way this time. Demoing on the fly, it's always fun. So we're going to hit the Sigma button. And now let's go up here to the top and let's hit D2. Scroll down. We're going to hit the Shift button and click on E50. And so now our formula says the sum of E2 to E50, and simply hit enter. Now let's try this again. If I hit a 1 and a 4, we should get 5 down here at the bottom. Okay, perfect. So
it's automatically calculated.
It's automatically calculating your totals. If I delete those out, our totals blank out. So by the time we get to the end of June for this general ledger, we should see our total income and our total expenses. Now, I know that I'm moving through this pretty quickly, so feel free to pause the video, go back and do that again. But the big key is we're hitting that Sigma, that fancy E, and then we're telling it which cells we're adding up. The next thing is we want to give a very specific list of categories. The reason why I list categories is because it helps us group together our expenses and we can see what are we truly spending on materials, what are we spending on advertising, what are we spending on paying someone for labor that's not you.
Software.
Yes,
anything,
all of those different things. Those are also different categories that your CPA will list out separately on your tax return. So your CPA wants to know how much did you spend on advertising, and you'll be able to give that as a category. So we want our categories to always be consistent though. Once we have everything summing down here at the bottom, now we want to add a category. So you want to group your expenses by category and also your income by category because it's going to help you in your tax returns. Your accountant is going to want to know how much you're spending on advertising, how much you're spending on materials. If you're paying anyone labor, how much you're spending on that labor. So we want our categories to be very consistent when we're doing this. So we need to create a drop-down list of categories to make it easy to select. So to do this, I'm going to go to our Data tab, and I'm going to click on this button under Data Tools with the green check mark and the red strike through that says Data Validation. Once we click Data Validation, we have to change our data validation type. So we're going to click on this Allow and change that to List.
So you can put words.
We can put words in a list that will then show up in a drop-down. So think through what you want your list to be and kind of what order you want it in before you get here, because it's a little bit harder to edit this later. You can absolutely, but it's just kind of a pain. So I have my list here. Let's type these real quick. So I want my list to be materials. Then we're going to do comma space, and that's what's going to tell it to make it the next thing on the drop down. So materials, subscriptions. So if you pay for like editing software, or if you pay for Canva to help you do designs or things like that, those would be subscriptions. Taxes, unfortunately, we have to pay them. Labor, so this would not be your personal labor. This would be paying someone else. If you don't pay anyone else to do labor, you can leave this one off.
Now, another way you could use that, now you may want to word it differently, but if I see a lot of people that maybe don't have a way to break down big materials like plywood sheets, and so they take it to someone else to break it down, and then they bring it back to their garage or their shop or whatever to finish it off. So anybody that you may kind of contract
Sure,
to do part of the process.
We're not paying W-2 employees. These would be more like contract employees, 1099 employees. So anything that kind of falls in that category, yes, you can call it outsourcing, you could call it labor. Just a pro tip, if you do have teenagers, you can pay your teenagers out of your business account, take it as a tax deduction.
Yeah.
So anything like that.
If you're that brave.
So the next one is owner's draw. And this is our personal paycheck. This is when we're paying ourselves from the business. So we need to track what that owner's draw is.
You don't want to leave that one off there.
We need
Hopefully you have it on there, I should say.
Listing fees, that would be things like if you pay 25 cents for a listing on Etsy. So again, you may not have that. You don't have to use all these categories. These are categories that we use. Event fees. So if you are setting up at a craft fair and it costs $30 to have your table, that would be an event fee.
Yep.
Shipping fees. So again, if we are shipping our product out, now if all you are doing is local pickup, door pickup, or drop off, you don't have to have listing fees or shipping fees. But it is something that if you are tracking, you want to track that. And then mileage, if you are driving to craft shows, if you are driving a distance to pick up lumber or whatever it is, track your mileage. Typically, it's tracked at 52 or 56 cents per mile. So keep up with those things.
And that's going to be different in different areas.
It will.
Right? So.
It will. And then my last one for expenses will be advertising/marketing. Now I'm going to keep going. Those were expenses categories. I'm going to keep going, and I'm going to also add some categories for income. So depending on how you are selling, you may not need all of these. So, you could do web sales. That might be if you have a website and you're selling. You could do Facebook Marketplace. You don't have to list all of these, but sometimes it's nice to see where we're getting our sales from. Like how much are we selling online versus through Marketplace versus local sales would be face-to-face, at a market, anything like that where you're not using an online platform. And then we also need to keep up with sales tax collected.
And then before we get off this category, is this going to be where if we sell through, like we have Venmo, and they take a percentage of the sale for the processing fees?
You can also, that's a good, see, this is why it's harder to keep up with it. We don't want to use our arrows. Sales tax collected, let me get rid of this. We may want to add Venmo over here a little bit.
Or card processing from Square or whatever.
Yeah, so let's add that.
And again, these are all going to be things that, pertain to how you do your business in the area you do it in and what you use. You may not use all these different payment methods or platforms. These are all things, but a lot of these are, so we're doing it for a woodworking business, but we did a similar type of spreadsheet for the home inspection company we had for all the years. She has one that she uses for her kind of side hustle apparel business and those sort of things for the craft fairs and that kind of stuff. So this can be for anything, not just the woodworking. Obviously, just for the purpose of the tutorial, we're gearing it more towards what we use. But
yeah, any kind of home business, craft business, this definitely applies to all of those. So now that we have our list, we're going to hit OK. And now you can see under category, we've got a little arrow, and here's all of our categories we just typed out. So I want to come up here to the bottom corner of this cell. You see where my mouse turns into a little plus sign? Yep. And I want to drag that, and we're just going to keep dragging until we get to our black line. And what that's doing is it's copying that list down. So now that arrow shows up on every cell. Okay, and this is it. This is all we have to do on that June ledger. Now, be sure you're saving as you go. This is just a sample for us, so I'm not going to hit save, but be sure you save as you go. There's nothing worse than getting this far in an Excel spreadsheet and losing your work.
Correct.
So let's show what this would look like. Let's say that on June 1st, you went to Lowe's and you bought
4x8 plywood.
4x8 plywood. And that goes in the expenses category. And it was
$42.
$42.
We didn't get the high dollar stuff. We got the cheap stuff.
I jumped my mouse a little bit here. We go $42. And under the category, we're going to hit our drop down list and we're going to say that was materials. And then maybe on June 1st, you also had your Canva subscription come out. And that was subscription to Canva. And that one was $15.99. And that fell under your subscription category. And then maybe on June 2nd, June 2nd, 26, you sold to Christy a door leaner, and you sold that for $65. And because it was to Christy and it was local, we're going to put that as local sales. And so you'll just do this. Every expense, every income through the month. I recommend, we talked about this last time, take one day a week and just catch these up.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing a lot of sales or a lot of trips to buy supplies. It becomes a lot at the end of the month to keep up with.
We talked about it in the previous video. Last year, I just kept receipts and stacked them in a box or in a file folder. And when it came time around for us to get ready to do our taxes, I had to spend a better part of a week on and off catching all my receipts up and logging all of them. Do not do that.
Please don't. And now as we scroll down to the bottom, we can see that we had $57.99 in expenses and $65 in income so far that month.
Hey, we're to the plus side.
We're in the black.
Look at that.
Okay, so this is page 1. So we're tracking when we're buying things, we're tracking who we're buying it from or who we're selling it to. We're giving a brief description of what we are purchasing. Any money going out the door goes in the expenses category. Any money coming in the door goes in the income category. And then we just give it a label to help us summarize it on the next tab.
So when it comes to when you're inputting this data, right? So it can get really easy. I did it with previous businesses, but it can get really easy because in our example we've got Canva, for example. The two are from Canva, subscription to Canva, and then the category it still says subscriptions. And I know that can seem really redundant, especially somebody that doesn't deal with spreadsheets and tracking information. I used to ask that all the time, like, do I really need to put all this in over and over again? When it comes to the end and you're breaking things down at the end of the month, or when you're tracking things for yourself, or when you need to verify something for taxes, it does help having a detailed description. Let's say, for example, on the Lowe's run, on this example, June 1st, I got plywood, but I also bought Type Bond 3 wood glue. And then I also bought some screws. I try to go ahead and list all that out. Plywood, Type Bond 3, screws or glue or whatever. Now, if you save all your receipts and you still stack all the receipts up, do we still need to save all the receipts even though we have this?
Yes.
We do. Why?
Yes. Because if you were ever to get audited, and the audit word is terrifying to all small business owners, they're going to want proof that you actually did this and you weren't just listing stuff.
So when they go to match things up, if your receipt says plywood, screws, and glue, it's going to be easier to match up, even with the dates and so on and so forth, especially if you buy a lot of stuff at one time. Sometimes I make 3 or 4 or 5 trips to the big box stores in one day because I forget things. So I've got it can get confusing when you do your paperwork.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then also on the income side, tracking who you're selling to. And now if you're selling like at a craft fair, you don't have to list Susie and John, and just say this craft fair. And, we use, Vendor Fest North Little Rock. And then we sold these items for this amount.
Yeah.
But you sell to a lot of realtors because they like buying wood products as realtor gifts. And so for you, actually listing a realtor's name may be helpful because it's going to tell you, who's
purchased before.
Yeah, who's your big market is. And what are the things that are selling?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's going back to that previous video from a month or so ago with the business tips. That was one thing we had talked about is she mentioned selling at craft fairs, about tracking what you sell. We had the manual pads we wrote out on, and that way when you get back and you get ready to reconcile your spreadsheet, you can in fact record those things that you sold. We sold 3 door leaners and 2 cutting boards and whatever. So it can be repetitive from a sense of entering it in, and it does take a few extra minutes. But if you need to track, you need to verify, you need to prove, or you just want to audit yourself down the line and how you're doing and what you're selling, it will make things a lot easier in the long run.
Absolutely. So that's it for this tab. So for our June general ledger, all we're listing, it's just a list. And if you ever need to add rows, you just find an empty row and you right click on it and you're going to hit insert. And it's just going to add another row there. So if you have more than now 51 items that you need to track, you just keep adding to it.
What if we want to add 10 at a time? Can we do that?
You can. So just highlight a whole bunch of rows, right click and insert, and it's going to enter however many number of rows you have highlighted.
Now we're down to
we're down to
62.
Okay. And we started out at 50.
How about if we're at this point and somebody has done this for a few months and they decide, I want to put in where I delivered to or another category.
Sure, that's
so
that? Easy. So if you want to add a location, which can be really good for tracking for sales tax purposes, click on the column you want it to go in front of. So in this case, D, and we're going to put right click and we're going to do insert. And now we have an extra column there. And so maybe we call this location. And, we bought this in North Little Rock, but maybe we sold this one in Benton, right? And then this one is online. So you could add to it if you want to. Now I'm going to delete that just because it's not part of ours. I want to keep this true to form.
And like she said a while ago, for you that are totally new to spreadsheets and doing this maybe the first time, you can shrink these categories over. You can give yourself more room to write in each one or to type in each one, I should say.
Just grab the little gray lines between the columns and you can drag and it makes it easier.
Excellent.
I try to keep this very simple because you are not an Excel person.
I like simple.
And so this is very easy for you to do. You just go to the next line, you enter your information, you go to the next line, you enter your information. So let's move on to the summary tab. And this one is really where we get some good meaty information. And it really helps us figure out how much we're going to pay ourselves.
Right.
And have we tracked everything? So let's go to our monthly summary. And again, I'm going to space these out a little bit.
That's on a separate
completely
tab.
Separate
How do you
tab.
get the other tab to pull up?
We just click the tab name. We created the tabs first thing.
See, I wasn't paying attention.
And we just click the tab name down at the bottom.
So not my wheelhouse here.
Okay, so we're gonna give ourselves a little bit of extra space here. Now, first thing, I'm gonna grab the first 3 cells up here at the top. And when I say grab, I'm clicking and I'm dragging my mouse to highlight all of those. And over here on the Home tab, I wanna just do Merge and Center, which is, it's a cell with 2 blue arrows on it. And so I'm gonna combine those cells so I can give this a category. So I'm calling this the June monthly summary. I like to give a label on these pages because these are the pages that I print out and take with me to the CPA.
Yeah.
And so I want to know when I print it that this one was June, this one was July, this one was August. Okay, now I'm going to take the first 4 rows and the 3 cells we're using, and I'm going to use our little paint bucket icon here. And I'm going to make these blue.
And cells are the A, B, C, D, E, F. When you say cells.
A2 is a cell.
Each
it's the
square.
individual square.
Gotcha.
Yes. And so I like to color code things because it visually helps me break these things into categories.
And since she said that, I might have to zoom in on the camera, but you can see when we print out, it's color coded for us for different things. Yep.
Make things easy. It takes a little bit more time when you're setting up your Excel spreadsheet, but if you make it easy now, it makes it easier for you to do later. If every time you sit down at your spreadsheet to track this, you feel like it's a fist fight, you're less likely to track it the way you should.
That is very true.
Okay, so the first thing we're going to put on here in column 8 or cell A2 is we're going to put starting balance. And then the second one is going to be our monthly income. The third one is going to be monthly expenses. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to do ending balance. And I am going to highlight all of these and make them bold to help indicate that this is a category. And then I'm going to grab these columns of C and I'm going to make them dollars. And I'll come back once we have all this built and show you how to use this. Then for this ending balance, I am going to hit our Sigma button again. So the fancy E, by the time you're done with the video, you should know this is your Sigma button. And actually, that's not what I'm going to do. Hang on. We're not going to do that. We're going to manually type in a formula.
Oh, yay.
So follow along. We're going to do the equal sign first. Equal sign in Excel means we're putting in a formula. So we're going to say equal C2 plus C3 minus monthly expenses. And then we're going to hit the enter button.
So C2 is your starting balance. C3 on our rows we've made are monthly income, and C4 is the monthly expenses.
Yes, and if I highlight all of this and I hit the little arrow down here next to our bottom border, and I change this to all borders, it's going to give us those cell delineations. So what you're going to do on this part of the summary is you're going to go to your bank balance for your business bank account. That was what was there June 1st before you had any income or any expenses. So let's just say we started the month and we had $1,020 in there.
Okay.
And then your monthly income we get from the June ledger. So we're going to scroll down to the bottom at the end of June and we're going to say, oh, as of right now, it was $65. So we're going to put in $65. And then we're going to say our expenses were the total down here at the bottom for June, $57.99. And we're going to put in $57.99. So now if we look at our bank account at the end of June, if that was all of our income and all of our expenses in June, at the end of June, our bank account should be $1,027.01. If you put in your starting balance, your sum of your income, your sum of your expenses, and get your ending balance. And this ending balance does not match your ending balance for the month in your bank account. That means you missed something.
Yeah.
Either you didn't track an income or you didn't track an expense. So this piece of your summary, don't skip, because this is your check. This is where you say, did I get everything listed?
Right.
Okay, now we're gonna add details on our expenses. So we're gonna create another section, and this one is the budget expense category. Oops, category summary.
Got an N on the expense.
Expense. And I also have an E somehow in here on budget. Okay. And then in column B, we're going to list all those things that over here on the general ledger in our categories, we had listed as categories for the purpose of expenses. So we're going to say materials. My goodness, I'm typing crooked, folks, and that's why I am typing bad. So I apologize. We're going to list materials, subscriptions, taxes.
Is there a way to copy and paste that list or just put it over there?
Not easily.
Okay.
So we're just going to do this once.
Okay.
Labor, owner's draw.
I'm always looking for the quick and easy way.
Listing fees, shipping fees, mileage, advertising, marketing. Now, if you added anything to your categories list in addition to what I gave as examples, put those in here as well. And again, we are going to grab all of these items and we are going to give them $1. And now let's grab all of these cells and I'm going to make them whatever this kind of orangey color is. And again, we're going to put our cells there. And so what I'll do is I'll come over here and I will say all the expenses that have a category of materials and I'll add all of those up. Now, pro tip, if you are very, very comfortable with Excel, you can write a sum if statement to say if this category shows up here, add the total in. You can also have Copilot help you write that sum if statement. If you're an Excel newbie and you're sitting here saying, what the heck is a sum if statement? Don't worry about it. Do the math manually. But in this case, we'll say materials, okay, in the month of June was $42 total. We add all those up and we're going to give ourselves category summaries. And then subscriptions was $15.99.
Obviously, normally you're going to have more than one thing in the materials if you're running a woodworking
Absolutely.
business. We're just, for simplicity's sake, we just did a couple of numbers.
And then when you add up all your categories, again, you want to double check yourself. So you want to highlight all of these, and down here at the bottom, it's going to give you a sum total, $57.99. Okay, up here under monthly expenses, I have $57.99. Great, I got everything listed in my categories. Next up, we're going to do budget income category summary. So budget income category summary. And we're doing the same thing as before. We're going to list all of those items in our drop-down list on the other page. Website sales, local sales. What all did we have in this category over here for? We had web sales, Facebook Marketplace.
And again, these would just match up to whatever it is that you're doing in your particular area. Like I said, if you're using Square, if you're using Venmo, if you're using Cash App or PayPal or or any other means. And you can even break it out into cash, check, card. I mean, you can do whatever works best for you.
And we're doing everything that we did before. We're giving it dollar signs. We're going to give it whatever color we like that's somewhat distinct from other colors we've used. We can make this one green. I like green for money. We're going to put our borders on, and then we can say, okay, over here, let's add up every single thing that has local sales as a category, and we'll list it, and $65 is our total. Now, we have to know how much we're paying ourselves, how much we're reserving for taxes, and how much we're saving to use for expenses next month.
So this one is big. We also kind of hit on this a little bit in that previous business startup tips video. But this one is real important because you don't want to get to the 10th, 12th, 15th of a month and you think, I've got this much money left, I can go buy some more wood or a slab or lumber, whatever it is, materials, and you really hadn't set aside the things that automatically come out.
Absolutely.
So this is key.
Yeah, so if you have a $15.99 Canva subscription that comes out on the 17th of the month, and on the 15th you spend every dollar in your account, now you're in the red, and that's not good. So we personally, because we run our business debt-free, we reserve money at the end of the month to cover the mandatory expenses. This would be your subscriptions, your website fees, your listing fees. Now, if you're doing local sales, if you are doing custom orders, a lot of times people take half down on a custom order, and that covers the materials. And then you take the second half of the payment when you deliver the product. In that case, you don't have to save money. But if you're building things in advance and then selling them, you need to have money set aside to buy that. So we have a big craft fair coming up June 13th. And you are going to build some products to put at the craft fair.
So obviously that money, we don't know who's buying. I don't have an agreement with anybody. So that's going to be money I need up front for materials or whatever it is for those products.
Yes. So the three things that we want on this list is reserved for future expenses. That's what we're going to have for the next month. Okay, the second item we're going to list is reserved for taxes. If you are, depending on the state, you will have to pay sales taxes. You have to pay federal self-employment taxes. And again, depending on your state, you may have state income taxes. Arkansas, we have state income taxes. Some states you don't. But you have to have money set aside to pay those tax expenses.
If that's something you're not used to, now this is something that, it took us a little bit to get used to. I sell this much, I need to put aside this much money for taxes. If I'm used to doing this much a month, I need to set this much. So it may be a little bit of a trial and error. Now, if you've got a good CPA or an accountant that helps you with that stuff, we've talked about last video, her mother is our CPA, so we're able to just call her on the phone and get advice real easy. Shouldn't even charge us for it. So we have a benefit there, but it was a little trial and error for us, and sales are up. Okay, well, how do I need to adjust what I set aside for taxes? Sales are down. What can I cut to be safe? So there is a little bit of trial and error to it as you go through.
And then the third category we're going to list here for our budget for the following month is our owner's draw. And that's what we pay ourselves. Now, again, we're going to grab ourselves. We're going to give it a dollar sign. We're going to give this some sort of color that makes sense to us. Maybe we'll give it yellow and put boxes around it. Now, how do we get to these different numbers? Reserve for future expenses really depends on your recurring expenses. If you are listing on Facebook Marketplace, you don't have any subscriptions, you don't have website fees, things like that. Really, all you need to think about is what you know you need to build next month. That would be, okay, I know I'm going to have a $50 market coming up, and I may need $500 to build product to sell at that market. So I need $550 for next month. Yeah. It could be as simple as, I sell planter boxes. I just need enough money to build one planter box, and I don't build the second planter box until I've sold the first one for some profit. So it could be that this number is $25. This really varies. If you are selling a ton on Etsy, you may need a whole bunch so that you can have a stockpile for Etsy. So you know your business. Any kind of budget, be it a business budget or a personal budget, takes a little trial and error. It takes looking at your previous expenses. If you are a brand new business owner, set goals, but also work within the money that you have. Don't set $1 million business budget if you have made $0 at woodworking. Your budget next month may be $100, and that's it. And that's okay. That's where we all start at. But you need to know where you're at. You need to know what your expectations for the month are. And you need to project your expenses. So for us, we may say we're going to reserve $300 to pay for subscriptions, listing fees, buy material next month.
Sorry. So allergy season. So just a tip, though, and this is kind of a side note, it doesn't have to do with making the spreadsheet, but just when we're talking about those expenses, when you're first getting started, especially until you get used to it, and especially if you're running on a limited budget, which we do, just a side note on some of those things that come out, like if you have software fees or anything that's a fee, if at all possible, manually pay those every month too. It gets real easy when things are auto-deducted and auto-draft, or you have a reoccurring draft come out, to forget about them. And in fact, I'll be honest with you, I did it last month. I said, I've got $500 in the account to go buy materials for a couple builds I'm doing in the shop. And you forget about the $26.95 that came out, and the $37 that came out, and the $15 that came out for my editing software and all this other stuff. So when you're first getting going with this, out of sight, out of mind is bad. So if you can, along with that time you set aside to go in and manually put in your numbers, your things you purchase and things like that, make that a point to also try to manually keep up with paying for your monthly subscriptions. Put it on your calendar so you don't forget and you have to reset your password and all that kind of junk. But if you can manually do it, that will help you get in a practice of knowing how much you need every month too.
Absolutely. So next up is taxes.
Oh, everybody's favorite thing.
This one, I'm going to tell you what my formula is. Don't necessarily use my formula. Talk to your CPA. Look at how much you've paid in taxes previously. This is the formula that has worked for us. As Chris said, this is a lot of trial and error for us to get down to this number, but this is the number that we use. So to do taxes, I'm going to type it here to the side. That way I have my reminder for how to calculate this consistently in the future.
There you go.
I'm going to do monthly income minus monthly expenses times, for us, it's 22%. Now, I'm actually going to put parentheses around this. Actually, let's do this if we're going to be mathematically accurate here. And then we're going to do plus sales tax collected.
So you're just making yourself a note.
I'm making myself a note. So if I was actually going
or making me a note,
calculate this, I would take, how much did I make this month? $65. Minus, how much were my expenses? because we don't pay taxes on our total income. We pay taxes on our income minus our expenses. So our expenses were $57.99. So our profit this month was actually $7 and a penny. So we would take 22% of that $7 and a penny, and that would be how much we would pay for us for federal and state taxes. And then we also add to that how much we collected on sales tax. So a $65 income, we're paying $6.50, 10% sales tax on it. So for us, we're going to get, whatever that number is, and we're going to enter it here. So let's just say, for the sake of easy math, that that's $7, because we're dealing with low numbers here. And then when we get to our owner's draw, we are doing our total monthly income. Let's make this another note. We're going to do monthly income minus monthly expenses minus reserved for future expense minus taxes. So essentially what we're saying is everything we brought in minus what we spent minus anything we're setting aside to pay for other things.
Gotcha.
And that's going to be our owner's draw. And so you could do this based upon your total bank account. You could do it based upon your income, but you just need your formula. So again, these formulas are what work for us. They may not be what works for you. You may, instead of doing this, you may want to pay yourself a consistent income. It may be, instead of paying an owner's draw that's a percentage or a mathematical formula, you're paying yourself $500 a month out of your business. That's harder to do at the beginning because some months you may make $10, some months you may make $1,000, and so it's inconsistent. If you get to where you have a very consistent income, then just paying yourself a set amount is easier. Yeah. But that's all this spreadsheet is. So let's go back and recap.
Okay.
And again, we're going to want to hit save here.
Please hit save.
So for our general ledger, we're going to track the date we do the expense or take the income, where we paid it or who we got paid from, the description of what was purchased or what was sold, total expenses, total income, and we're going to create categories using data validation category lists. At the bottom, we're going to have our total income and total expenses.
And again, that can be, you can have 10 spots if you don't sell much, or you can have 100 spots if you sell a lot. And it can vary month to month. So she showed you earlier how to add more lines in.
Absolutely. Then every month, once we have all of our income and all of our expenses listed out and categorized, we will summarize our month. We will put our starting bank balance. We will put our total of our income, our total of our expenses, and we will make sure that it matches our ending bank balance. We will then summarize all of our budget expenses by category, all of our income by category, and then we will determine how much we're setting aside for future expenses, for taxes, and how much we're going to pay ourselves based upon what we took in and what we spent in June. So that's all there is. Once you build this, it's a very simple spreadsheet. Now, you don't want to build this every month. So the very last step is we're going to click on our bottom tab, and we're going to say move or copy. That was a right click. And we're going to create a copy and move it to the end. And now we have June General Ledger 2. So if I right click again and rename, it would be July General Ledger. And then I'm going to right click on June month summary, move a copy. We're going to move it to the end, create a copy, and then rename this one, and this becomes July monthly summary. And you're going to do that over and over and over for the whole year. I Also, when I get to the end of the year, I create an annual summary page that looks really identical to our monthly summary. And I'm going to say, what was our bank account balance at the beginning of the year? What was it at the end of the year? And then I'm going to summarize all of our income and all of our expenses for the year. And really that annual summary is what we hand our accountant to do our taxes. This is not QuickBooks. This is not Quicken. This is not accounting. This is small business friendly tracking, but our accountant has never had a complaint about being able to do our taxes off of this level of accounting.
Yeah, and it's saved.
It's saved.
It's not on a sheet of paper. It's not in a notebook that may get lost or messed up, or on a napkin, or whatever else some of us come up with. So and again, once it gets set up, even I can type the numbers in. So it's very easy once it gets set up and you have the basic instructions for that second page for the summary. Even I can do it. So I know if I can do it, you guys can do it.
And, I'm very comfortable with Excel. It takes me 30 minutes to make this. If you're not comfortable with this Excel, you're talking maybe an hour, hour and a half to put this together. But it is time well spent to make sure that we have everything tracked in an easy format. And I did need to go back in here and relabel the top of this one July as well. But that's it. We're going to hit save. We're making a copy for every month of the year. And that's all you need to do. And then the most important piece of this, using it.
Oh, yes. Got to use it.
It doesn't matter what your Excel spreadsheet looks like if you don't put data into it.
Now, so this is a kind of a basic version. This is a very simplified version. It does everything we need it to do, but it is simple compared to what can be done. There are, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't really know, there are ways, as you mentioned earlier, where you can have it auto-calculate for you and things like that. If you get this down pat and you want to get deeper into it, it is capable of doing those things.
It really is. We have ours set up in a more robust way where really all Chris has to do is enter the general ledger information and everything on the summary automatically
does it for me.
Populates for him.
Yeah.
But that is definitely a more advanced Excel technique. I would say Microsoft's AI product is Copilot. Use the Copilot that is built into Excel to help you figure out how to do things if you can't figure it out. So if you go over to the help screen, you can do help. You can also just do a search for Copilot. But it really makes a big difference when you're doing this yourself if you don't know to ask the AI, how do I add columns, or how can I create a formula? And so don't be afraid of using that.
So for people that aren't used to this screen that we have up, all this stuff at the top, is there anything else that would be beneficial apart from, there may not be, apart from what you've went over for this?
Oh, all of it.
Any of these other?
No,
for people that want to keep it simple, is there anything else that would help them, or if they click on it, it will mess them up?
Gosh, that's a hard question.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw you under the bus right there.
On the Home tab, this is really where you can do your basic visual formatting. You can put those borders around cells. You can center things. You can change colors. You can merge your cells. You can change your font size, all of that stuff here. We can also insert and delete rows here. And then this is where our Sigma button is.
The fancy E.
The fancy E. Also, if you end up on your general ledger and you have a very, very long list and you're trying to find something, you can hit this A to Z filter and you can actually search or do custom filters using these buttons.
So like if you want to see how much I spent just at Lowe's.
You could, yes. We could put a filter on.
If you've got 100 purchases for the month.
You could see how much from Lowe's.
Yeah.
again, data is where that data validation button is going to be. I wouldn't use much more on here.
Okay.
It gets not beginner friendly.
Yeah, okay.
Now, again, if you are very confident in your Excel skills, so much more. You can make this thing sing and dance in Excel. But
for what we're talking about,
today, let's just stick with the functionalities that we have used.
And so when you guys watch this, if you stuck with us through the whole thing, like we said on the last video, and you have just some basic questions, feel free to drop them in the comments and we'll get Beth to answer them. Normally I do all that, but we're going to get Beth to answer if it's pertaining to this video. If it's something that has to do with making the spreadsheet, obviously I can answer other stuff. But yeah, drop a comment if you've got a question or anything. You can definitely do that down below, or you can email me if you don't want to ask a comment. There's no stupid questions, but sometimes people don't like asking questions. So if you want to email me, you can certainly do that. I'll put my email address here on the screen, and we can go that way with it. Again, this works for us. It's worked for us through 7 years of a busy home inspection business where I had a lot more entries than I have in the woodworking business so far. She uses it for her side hustle. We were using it for our woodworking business, which hasn't been going that long. And you can apply this to a lot of different things. So it doesn't have to just be exactly like we said it. And obviously, as you can see, it can be customized to whatever works for you. So feel free to steal our categories exactly if you want, or make up your own.
Absolutely. And just, again, the biggest thing is tracking, and not just tracking, but looking at your information. If you are a business, one of the keys to success is keeping your costs low and your income high. But do you know what low and high actually mean?
Yeah.
And so you have to have an idea of what those things are. There are so many more things you can track. You could add a tab that talks about products that you make and how many of those products you have sold, what your cost is on the product, what your profit is on the product. We can do so much more with additional tabs. But just to get started, do your itemized list for your ledger and then your summary list every month. And this is the best place to get started. And as Chris said, if you have any questions, again, not a CPA, not a lawyer, but if you have a question about how I built this Excel spreadsheet, drop it in the comments and I will get him the response for you.
Yes.
To do that. And if there's more along these lines that you're interested in, just let us know.
Yeah. Last thing, if you haven't seen the business starter, I can't even remember what the title we put on it was.
Business Basic Startup, maybe?
Business Basic Startup Tips and Tricks video. I'm going to link that in the description as well. And we can also stick it up on the screen right here somewhere above us at the end of the video. But you got anything else?
You were created for a purpose. Now go out and create for a purpose.
Yeah, do that. Take care and be blessed. We'll talk to you later.
Bye.